Welcome back to Shorty SuperCoach. Today we're going to take a look at the Port Adelaide Football Club as part of Shorty's Shortlist series, where we take a look at some of the best value picks and potential players to break out in 2016 as far as our SuperCoach sides are concerned. We're not always going to look at the obvious ones, your Travis Boaks, your Robbie Grays, etc. We'll certainly look at them closer as the season comes closer, but for now we're just looking for a bit of value, some players you should have on your radar, a few guys you should be thinking about, until you can really focus on the team that we want come round one. But for now it's more of a broader view, so I've got a few names for you, and this first one I really wish I didn't have to discuss. He's one of my favourite picks for the season this year, and I really, unless something drastic happens injury wise, he will be in my starting midfield, and I really like his prospects. It's Ollie Wines. He could be a bit unique. I certainly hope he's unique, and I'll tell you why. Averaged 97.3 last year, but he started the season flying with a few hundreds, etc. Then in round 3 he dislocated his wrist early in the final term against the Saints. He was on 76 points, so he was looking at another 100 there, and he missed quite a few rounds. He returned in round 8, and then was in some good form again. It just showed how important. He's 21, but he has such an impact on Port Adelaide. He's such a vital cog in their midfield. I mean, in 2014 he averaged 100.3 off his 22 games, so last year was the first one he was really affected with injury, because in round 18 he dislocated his shoulder the 17-minute mark of the first term, where he's on 21 already. So he's been scoring in these games he gets injured in, but it's just showing that it's not quite reflecting in his average, I should say. Take those games out, from the 11 that he played at full fitness and full game time, he averages 106.2. And for a guy in his third season, you can only really see that going up. In the first 2 years he played 22 games, played every game, and in the 2014 final series averaged 105.7 over the 3 games, and it just showed that he's ready, mate. He's ready to go. He has been since he got drafted. He scored a ton in his first game, and look, I think his numbers speak for themselves. 24.5 touch average last year, 12.4 contested, 5.2 tackles, 5.8 clearances, even 2.5 hit-outs per game. So he doesn't mind a bit of third man up action as well. So the reason he's so high on my watch list, and a guy that I just really want to lock in, because he wins the hard ball, he could even find a bit more footy on the outside. His body has always been ready-made for those contests, even from an 18-year-old. And I really feel if he can get up and running, have a good pre-season, and play another 22 games, he really could. I reckon that 106 is a minimum. If you take those injury games out for that 106 average last year, I reckon that's about your base. I really can see it going very, very well for Ollie Wines, and he'll be a man that is very high on my watch list, as you can probably tell. Matthew Lobe, probably a guy that hasn't been on many watch lists until the last couple of weeks, and that's because Paddy Ryder won't be playing for Port Adelaide at all this season, of course, with the 1-year ban handed down to all Bombers players. And of course Ryder has found himself at Port Adelaide, but will still be missing the whole year. And okay, last year wasn't Lobe's best year, and you can probably put that down to sharing the ruckload with Ryder. There's some ruckmen who just enjoy being the sole ruck, just that Todd Goldstein. I mean, he loves to do it on his own, and when he tried to share it, it just didn't work. And the same happened last year with Ryder and Lobe. It didn't work fantastic individually. From a team point of view, it had its moments, and Ryder didn't have a terrible year by any means, but individually speaking, Lobe didn't have a great season. 72.1 average of the 17 games. He missed the first 3 with a bit of quad tightness, so he didn't have a fantastic start to the year, and it probably wasn't best preparation either. We're going to focus a little more on the 2014. We averaged 100.7, 10.5 touches per game. He's not a massive ball winner, just the 2 marks per game, a quarter of them contested, but he does win his own footy. 6.4 contested touches, 6.5 tackles, and about 3 clearances per game. And the hit-outs, 31.7. So look, he can find his own ball, almost in that Shane Mumford role. I know that Mumford is excelling far beyond Lobe, but they play a similar role. Not big touches, but they love to shoulder the workload themselves. They're in and under at the contest. They lay tackles. They get the ball out with a clearance or 2. And I think that's what adds huge value as a ruckman in SuperCoach. I think he's one you definitely got to consider. You might say, why did his form drop off last year? I think looking at the numbers, there were no absolute obvious things. His hit-outs surprisingly weren't down too much. His time on ground was slightly down, but I think taking a slight look at some forward 50 stats, he obviously spent more time forward with Ryder and slightly less time at every contest, but there was no absolute standout factor aside from the fact that he did have to share it, because I think Ryder averaged about 23 hitouts as well, so I guess they're all hitouts that Lobie could be having, but he's not because he's not at the contest. So definitely, I think he's well priced, and I know it's just one season we've got to look at, and it was only 100.7, and that's pretty impressive, and you take that. But sometimes people want for your ruck one, they want that 110. But I really think he's an absolute huge option this season because Goldstein is so far up there in price, and there's a few ruckmen that are very injury prone up in the top bracket, so I think Lobie is one of the blokes that I'll certainly be look at, and he's currently in my side. That's up for debate, but he's one you got to keep a close eye on, no doubt. We're going to talk about Jasper Pittard now. Bit of an interesting one. I mean, I don't think anyone would have the guts to really pick him, but he is very interesting. After having a few injuries early in his career, he's played 20 games last year and 25 in 2014, so he's really gotten the consistency in his game. And last year he started in the fashion I thought, because he likes to rebound from defence. He was the number one bouncer in 2014. That slightly dropped off last year, but he started last year in the fashion I thought a rebounding defender could. Averages 99.2 in rounds 1 to 5. So a small sample size, but he started the year well. But it was downhill from there. He only averaged about 80 points over the whole season. He averaged 19.6 touches. 12.6 of them were kicks. He's a designated kicker. They like the ball in his hands. He can be a bit sloppy at times, and I think that's more to do with he likes to take a risk. He likes to take the game on, and at times that can come undone. But if he can get that right and get a bit more of the footy, and some of his own footy too, because 14.4 of those touches were uncontested, so he doesn't find a great deal of it on his own. He'll turn 25 this year, 76 games under his belt. He's coming into his prime as a footballer, and I think if he can find that real halfback role and they want to play through him, because he's a former round 1 selection, and I think he's got the game that could really go nicely with a SuperCoach scorer down in the back line. You'd be brave to pick him at that price. And I think Matty Broadbent's another guy that sort of plays that similar role. Broadbent's your more consistent sort of fella. From 2012 to 2015, his averages have fit in anywhere between 79.5 and 84.5. So he's consistent, but he's not into those 90s that we need. That's why I look at Pittard. Maybe he's the next guy while Broadbent's being consistent. Maybe Pittard's the guy who can really rack up the touches, dash out of defence, take the game on. And if he has a career best season this year, we could see a 90 plus. So something to look out for. We're going to talk about Gray now. No, it's not Robbie, it's Sam Gray. A lot of you probably not even thinking about Sam Gray and just focusing on the more talented, or at least more higher scoring at this point in time, Robbie Gray. But Sam had a brilliant end to last season, and that shouldn't be ignored. A bit of background on Sam. He is 24, I believe, at least getting close to that mark. I think by the time next year rolled around. 2013, he was playing in the Sample, came running up in the McGarry Medal, which is the equivalent to the best and fairest for the league. Found a rookie spot on Port Adelaide's list. Mason Shaw went down and he got upgraded, played 7 games in 2014. Nothing too fantastic, but he found his feet at AFL level. And last year he played the 10 games. Now, he came into the season about round 8, he made the side. Was dropped after round 11, and in those 4 games only averaged 55.8. Now obviously his role was a bit different, obviously not right through the midfield as it was late in the year, but he came back in round 18, almost Port Adelaide trying a few different things because their season was struggling. It was basically over, and they had to find something, and did they find something in Sam Gray? Round 18 to 23, averaged 111.3 from those 6 games. Tons, 120 plus in the last 3 games, and they weren't easy beats. He had 37 against Gold Coast, but also tonned up big time against Fremantle and Hawthorn. So they weren't just, against your lower level sides. He can find his own footy, and he's a consistent tackler. And look, he's a guy that you'd almost consider. He's at an average of 89 for the 2015 season, so he'll be priced awkwardly, I suppose, because you'd be picking him at that price to up it to that sort of 100 plus mark. But if you think that he's going to run through the midfield and do that same sort of stuff as he finished last year with, you'd have to consider him, because he definitely ended the year absolutely on fire. He runs hard, he works hard, doesn't have any absolute deficiencies in his game at this point in time. I don't think his pace is his absolute quality. Don't quote me on that, I'm not 100% sure. But last year, obviously not much attention to him from taggers. He ran pretty free, but he showed what he can do if he does get a free run at it. And with Boak and Gray in the side, he may well. So he's a guy to keep an eye on, that's for sure. Jimmy Toumpas, former high pick. I won't spend too much time on him. He's never got going at the Ds. Change of environment could do something for him. At an average of 53.6 from the 9 games last year. You know, all he's got going for him is he's a former high pick and we know talent is there. He hasn't shown anything really at AFL level to suggest that is going to, you know, translate from under 18s to AFL level. But I'm sure he's the sort of player that people just like to keep an eye out for because he's changed clubs, he's got talent, got potential. But I wouldn't be going anywhere near him, to be honest. So just my thoughts on him. Robbie Gray, obviously just a centre now. Trav Boak, can he go absolute elite, 110 plus? That's a question for him. Chad Wingard, averaged 98 last year. Does he have value? Is he going to absolutely go bang and average 3 figures? He can be up and down at times. Found his consistently last year though. Is he a midfielder? Is he a half-forward flanker? Where do Port see him? A few questions around those guys, but we're not going to delve too deeply into them at this stage. It's only mid-January. Once we really focus in on our teams and positions exactly into the midfield and the forward lines, will really hone in on some of those players. But there's a few players to look at for Port Adelaide who offer a bit of value and are a bit different as well. So I think definitely a few to consider, definitely a couple I'll be considering. So if I've missed anyone from Port Adelaide, certainly let me know, leave a comment and give me some feedback on the previews as a whole, because there's plenty more coming. We're getting through them, but certainly they'll be all out by the time SuperCoach is released. I think that's on Jan 29. So give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, because I said it won't stop once these previews are done. There'll be plenty of debate about players and plenty to talk about SuperCoach wise as the season rolls closer, and I'll be tackling those issues head on. So I'm looking forward to the release in about a week and a half, and yeah, subscribe to the channel and I'll chat to you guys soon.